Welcome. This is the win-win solution generator. It's going to guide us through the day. This started years ago when I was sharing with a client who was doing a piece of work on her mom and how her mom wasn't taking care of her own life. Her mom wasn't just doing what she wanted for herself in her retirement. Her mom wasn't following her dreams. Her mom wasn't paying attention to anything. And so, in addition to just doing the work on those statements, which kind of opened the floodgates, I had her go into a little meditation. And it turns out she found herself using that meditation so often. Her turnarounds, in fact, from her work, which you'll learn about turnarounds, and we'll do them later if you're new, were that she was the one who needed to follow her dreams. She was the one who needed to have a vision for her retirement and her life. And in doing this meditation, she realized that she wanted to get a dog. She wanted to sell the RV that they had because her husband didn't like going places with her and she couldn't hook the trailer up to the car. And she wanted to get a self-contained RV. And she wanted to leave her job as CFO of their little company, which she had been their accountant for their business throughout her whole life. And she got trained partly under me as a coach and completely changed her life as a result of this little meditation. And that meant negotiating quite a few things with her husband and her son. One of the things that came out of this too was she had done a piece of work on her son living at home, being in front of the TV or video games all day. It was driving she and her husband crazy, who both worked from home. So she went to her husband about it and they negotiated. They both brought to the table what they wanted. And then they brought that to their son, which was that they just decided they needed him to be out of the house for 8 hours a day, as if he was working. He was old enough that they didn't want to control what he did with that time, but they knew he had friends who were in doing drugs, and it was really scary for them to just put him out there on his own. He had already had a run-in with the police, and they're like, nope, we've got to trust him to start doing his own life. We just know we're not getting anything done with him under the same roof, and we're being resentful about it. So he ended up going to the library every day and doing searches for jobs, taking hikes in the mountains nearby, getting a girlfriend, some of the things she had wanted for him anyway. So it's just really amazing when you get in touch with what you want and you give yourself permission. So often we are just wired to be what we call in other people's business. If you'll be learning this concept later, but if there are 3 kinds of business, yours, mine, and God's being the same, I often call it life too, the great what's happening, what shows up that is beyond our control, which is often our own behavior and others' behavior as well. It all falls under the purview of the great what's happening, or life. But my business is what I say, think, do, and feel. Your business is what you say, think, do, and feel. And so often we decide what we're going to do based on what we think the other person can handle, or we're afraid to even get in touch with what we want, or we just miss that because we're so used to running our lives from the perspective of other people's approval, other people's needs. We don't do ourselves or others any favors by second guessing their part so much that we aren't bringing our true selves to the table. So we'll talk later about how the negotiations go. The first half of today is kind of between you and what shows up, you and God, we'll call it. And then the second half of the day is between you and others, you and life. What if you have finally gotten clear about what you want, but you haven't really gotten the courage to bring it to the table with others because you're afraid they will be angry, or they won't accept it or will retaliate or feel hurt by what you want. First thing we're going to do is I want each of you to find your win-lose situation. We want to turn it into a win-win situation. But right now, it feels like, okay, wait, if I ask for what I want, somebody else might be hurt or lose out or be angry at me. Or so if I also just become a doormat and go with what they want or what I'm guessing that they want, then I lose out. So right now you may have a win-lose situation in your life. And you might say, well, what if there's no other person involved? What if I'm not scared of asking somebody to cooperate with my vision? But it's like a thing where I just don't think it's possible. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. Like my circumstance, life is kind of against me. Then we'll use life as your other player, and your stories about life may be what's holding you back more than the actual life is. So what is a situation in your life where there's something you would just like to see be different? And maybe you haven't really gotten in touch with what you even want. Maybe you know what you want, but you haven't made those changes yet. Maybe you know what you want, but you're afraid to ask someone for it. So just find that situation. Just write these questions. Why does it even feel like a problem to you right now? This thing, it's a problem because blank. Just a simple statement of it. And just think, well, what do I think they want, or your circumstances if life seems to be blocking you? And then why does what the other party or what you think the other party wants not work for you? What they want doesn't work for me because of why. So here we go. Just take some time and find your situation. Those three things. It's a problem because what I think they want or life is doing to block me. And what they want, if I allow what they want, it doesn't work for me because. About 30 more seconds. Again, just jot down whatever comes to you if you haven't. We're going to be working on what we're afraid of and just a general statement of what we want. If you have a situation and you can narrow it down just a little bit more, and then let's take another couple minutes to write, what am I afraid of about this situation? That if it keeps going on the way it is, if I don't get the courage to say or do something, whatever your situation is, whether it's another person or life, what am I afraid of? And then just sort of a general, off the top of my head, what I want. And then go a little deeper. Well, we'll go through a little process here with the win-win meditation. But just at first glance, if I thought I could have it, what I really want is like really, there's this sort of level of what I want is blank. And then there's like, wait, if I really thought I could have it, is there any more? And we'll go deeper into that. So you don't have to spend too much time, but just in general, to be in touch with what you're afraid of and what you want. Okay. We'll just take like 2 minutes here. We're going to go quite a bit deeper now into the part about what you want. So this part is between you and you. Lots of times we're the ones who are getting in our own way. And one of my main areas of expertise and teaching people is about self-sabotage. This part is just like the ways that you haven't really even gotten in touch with you. I'm going to just walk through. This is a meditation. You can close your eyes and just be in your own space. You can take notes toward the end. I start asking you, maybe you may want to write some things down. And I'm going to just read this little letter for you, because what this is about is this is where you are not able to get clarity and courage around a situation. So that's the situation you've identified, where you may put your own needs last or not get in touch with them. So after talking with my 21-year-old daughter about a hard decision she was facing, I sent her this note and shared with her this happiness hack, this book that you guys are going to get, that I had just used in a session with a client who got remarkable results. So here's what I wrote. Hi, sweetie. And I'm saying it to all of you. Even though it may have sounded like I was expressing opinions, I completely trust you and the great what's happening. This is your journey, and yet much of it is out of your hands, bigger than you. That's where trusting what's unfolding, having questioned the thought that your monkey mind can predict a good or a bad outcome, allows you to just show up and do the next right thing. In her case, something had happened that she thought would be defined as a bad outcome, something she didn't want. But how do you know what that next right thing is? When we let the answer we get for this moment be enough. Remember, stay out of the future and the yes buts of implementation. And we keep our projection of others' competing needs out of the way for a moment, a very clear answer usually emerges. Then we can enter into problem solving about the real roadblocks that emerge from life or others' needs. I have a little meditation I do with my clients that seems to work really well. Take what you like and leave the rest. Love, Mommy. So sometimes I do show up still expressing more of an opinion than I want. And so I followed up with this because on some level, I do want to be out of her business. I do want to trust her process and staying in my business. What do I want? What do I want to ask for? How does this actually affect me? So step one, close your eyes or keep them open if you like the pictures. Just for now, clear the playing field of everyone else and their needs and wishes. In her case, I said to her, get them, these people that were kind of doing things that felt cruel to her, and daddy, her dad, and your peers, and even your yes buts and future predictions and past regrets out of there. So you may say, but wait, that's really selfish of me just to not even care what they need or want. So this is only temporary. We are going to bring them back. But if all you focused on is what they need or want, like this girl in the picture, her mind is only over there in the business of others. She can't even get in touch. So just clear the playing field. What would that be like to just keep your own counsel? Got it? You can even sort of set them over on a shelf if you want, or send them out to play in a little park all together, or tuck them in, put them to bed, and give them a kiss goodnight, and then it's just you, whatever it takes. Everybody out of there. So get very still and ask yourself what you want around your specific problem or situation, if you could have it. You may have gotten something that you wrote down in our last little meditation, but this time really dream big. It may or may not involve others changing if they agree to. And in this dream, even though you can't see how right now, trust that if you stand for yourself, it will automatically be good for all concerned. Stay out of the business of everybody else and just trust. Your part is to hold you, to get clear what you want or need. And you already know on some level, even if you've been hiding that from yourself. And it can change with time. Just go with what comes to you now in your meditation. Just see a vision of this highest, happiest dream for yourself and all involved. Even though they're not part of the input right now, they may be part of the dream that you have going forward. If you just let the sky be the limit and let your answer in the moment be enough. Usually we know what we don't want, but we haven't necessarily really visualized what we do want. And this is all just happening in your mind right now. Don't feel you need to write anything down. Step 3, then, if the littlest parts of you, the 2-year-old, the 4-year-old, the middle schooler, the young adult, anybody who's kind of input or energy got stuffed along the way, or who has actually been rebellious, trying to push you to do more, if they were finally to be heard, if you would let them dream and trust that this bright future or something even better will come, then what does she want to do? She, the creative, childlike, energetic, believe in magic part of you, get even more clear about how you may have set all that aside in the name of being a grown-up or of your perceived limits or society's expectations or someone else's fears. Trust those little ones. Trust her, each of them, all of you together. Get clear and solid with you. Develop your happy, hopeful vision of how you want your life to go. Then turn it all over to the all that is and trust that you will be supported in ways you can't possibly imagine. The how of how you will get there is not up to us. Your job is just to hold your highest, happiest vision and trust that even if it goes differently and you need to tweak that vision, that we're just not in charge, and that things showing up that were outside of that vision might be the best thing that ever happened to you. Notice the part of you that doesn't believe it's possible. Just really note and acknowledge what your inner naysayer says, and later we can do the work on those thoughts. They're just trying to protect you by being negative and keeping you out of harm's way. So don't try to force affirmations. Instead, help that part of you see the flaws in its logic and watch new possibilities unfold. So you don't need to do that right now because we'll be doing that as we go. Just notice, though, where you still don't even believe your own vision. So letting that go is sort of between you and life, you and God. So far, that was between you and you. Now, turn it over to something bigger. As you hold and grow that vision, you will begin to see a logical next right thing and what your part is that supports this vision that feels really good to you. Go ahead and keep seeing a vision of what's next. How does this work? If we really are going to go there, what's my part? Even though our minds can't know what will happen, they like to hold a vision. They like to have a happy vision or a vision. And lots of times people are holding the scariest, most negative vision. So you might as well hold a happy one that aligns you with your clearest and in some ways most spiritually connected self. See it in your mind's eye as if it's already happening. It doesn't have to be real specific. This is about the energy of how you will feel, how others may feel too, but we don't want to get in their business. And even doing the steps and taking the steps, not having those steps be scary or bad or never going to work. Just, okay, here's a step, and that's going to have the best possible outcome. What would it look like? So again, keep in mind the why I think it won't work. My happy dream isn't likely to come true because. Here's where I think it would be good if you can take a moment to write that down. Just list a couple of the reasons that might get in the way. If you believe your happy dream really isn't likely to come true, because what? You're just all in the happy part. Just stay with that. This is just to take a moment and honor the parts that don't believe it so we can question them later. I've got a kind of a really big one going on right now, so I'm going to do a little writing myself. Remember, everybody else is still off the playing field, so whatever's getting in your way right now is your story, and that's what we're trying to capture. Even if it's your story of others. And remember, if there's not another and it's just the limits of life that you believe are in your way, write those down. Try to make them just clear, simple statements. My happy dream is not likely to come true because I wrote, he will never see it my way. And I wrote 5 others. So, yep. Okay, so plenty of time still to come back to those. It's really important to honor and get them on paper, because otherwise they will be driving the bus from underground if we don't really acknowledge them. So if we get into the how hole, that's another way we can stop ourselves. This part being between, first of all, between us and our stories, but also us and God, us and life, of us and what shows up. So if you think you have to be able to see your way to get from point A to point B, I've had particularly one client that always works through these things, but comes in every time. If she's been away from our work for very long, her monkey mind has taken over and has completely stopped her momentum, because her mind can't see her way through to get from point A to point B. So she just thinks, well, then I can't get there, and kind of gives up on her own vision. So this one, the belief is kind of, I need to be able to see exactly how it's going to work, or it won't come true. Like, my mind has to be able to lay out all the steps, and they all have to be practical, and I have to know where the money's coming, all of that. So anything that relates to getting in the how hole, if you could write statements like, I need to know how to solve blank. I need to know where the money's coming from. I need to know what's going to happen. I need to know that blank will support me, that kind of thing. Just take a minute and write a few more of how are you thinking you have to have it all figured out. Okay, so again, now that was kind of the between you and God or life. This is now we're getting into between you and others. And we'll come back much more in the afternoon about the actual conversations or negotiations or money pieces, whatever. But for now, I'm coming back to the win-win solution generator is step 5. When you feel really good is about your vision is when you can bring in other stakeholders and their wishes and concerns and bring those back into your thought processes. They could have come in already in what you just wrote. With your vision in mind, you can start to do real problem solving. So the fact that they may come at it at a different perspective, or that life right now isn't showing you solutions like the money or the time or the whatever it is, it's just a case of problem solving. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just that, oh, look at that. They want this. I want that. So with your vision in mind, you can start to do real problem solving. And we're not doing all of this right now. I'm just walking you through this meditation so you see what it is. First in your head, and then with them if applicable. If you're afraid to approach them because you fear they will be angry or unreceptive, do the work or the defensiveness dialogue on your beliefs, get support if needed, and consider alternatives in a relationship where it is truly unsafe to ask for what you want. So we're going to work more on that this afternoon. But otherwise, one at a time, you start to dialogue with others in your head first and start thinking, okay, I know they want blank. Okay, can I be the problem solver, the solution generator? And you may not second guess a solution that works for them, but just to have that solution oriented mindset rather than the enemy oriented mindset. They're against me. It's bad. They can't handle blank. I'm not safe. blank, just, okay, well, if that's their perception, can I come up with a win-win solution? Then when you actually are talking them, you will work later on how you're going to be able to inform them with an open-hearted mind of your decision-making process. Stay in problem-solving mode and notice when you shift into me versus them mode. If you do get confused, whether it's in your meditative view of them or in actual conversation, and start to lose a sense of what you want, clear the field again and check in with you. Even in a conversation, you may need to take a moment or even put a pause in the conversation. We'll work on that this afternoon, but ask yourself, what is making you feel little, scared, confused, angry? What is causing you to give up your vision? So if needed, again, this is just sort of the general overlay of how this works. You would work the wheel of self-forgiveness on a place where you think everything is your fault, or you have a regret about a past decision or behavior, or you would drop into deep inquiry in the work and use your upset and confusion that has now come to light in this conversation with them. To wake yourself up to the thinking that believes there isn't enough or that sees them as the enemy. That's all happening inside you. Trust that when you're true to what you want, it will be the best for others too. Trust that there's a higher solution than either of you could see before. And it really works that way if you stay true to your vision. When the time comes that you have determined to act, just notice and be curious about how you actually show up. Like you may have laid out all your steps there, and then all of a sudden something comes up where you feel like, no, it's all crashed and burned and it went backwards and that's not the way it was supposed to have gone. But if something shows up as a quote mistake, I put in quotes mistake, although it isn't there, don't beat up the littlest parts of you with shoulds. Instead, we have ways, especially using the wheel of self-forgiveness, to just clear the field again and trust that what showed up is all that showed up. And we can't necessarily know that it's a bad thing. This course correction might be exactly what you need. In fact, probably is to move forward. So don't give up on your vision just because things didn't go the way you had in mind. Again, just come back in and check in with what those littlest parts of you need in that moment to restore yourself and be on your side and either hold on to or adjust a vision given what's happened. This comes back to being between you and life or God, where you stay out of the business of what is showing up. We are not in charge of all of that. Finally, step 8, when you show up tuned into what's true for you, you can lovingly hear and advocate for others too, creating a win-win outcome. As you build this win-win muscle, your only job is to keep your own counsel and tweak it as new data shows up so that the vision still feels good, and ask for what you want. Then start to watch the ripple effect of your decision. As your loving, cooperative spirit increases your network of support, influence, receptiveness to the mystery that allows the manifestation of your vision in ways you could never have imagined. The book, it has a 1-page summary of these steps. It can really help just to stop, feel the feelings in your body for at least 1 minute and be there and let yourself know that you're scared or in trouble or beating yourself up, and then get everyone off the playing field, attend to yourself, check in with you, and ask for what you want.